Hello everyone, Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central, and I am here with Shakespeare and Sonnet number 1. I promised I'd come back with a little bit of Shakespeare, and since we did the review of Judi Dench reciting a sonnet, I thought maybe we'd look at a few more sonnets. But today we're looking at Sonnet 1, and I will read through the sonnet. I won't do as great a job as Judi Dench, I'm sure, but I will read through the sonnet, and I'll put it up on slides so that you're able to follow along. There's just going to be 2 slides. I broke it up so the print is large enough. I was going to do it just on 1, but I think 2 is a bit better, just for visual purposes. And then I'll make a few comments, but I also am very interested to hear what your comments are and what your thoughts are on this particular sonnet. Just before I jump into it, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, that helps the channel a lot. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed and who has donated to the channel. There's a way to do that in the description. You can buy me a coffee or use Ko-fi. There's other links down there to the merchandise store, etc. So you can check all that out. All right, let's have a look at Shakespeare and Sonnet 1. Just before we get into the sonnet itself, I thought we'd have a look at some main characteristics. So a sonnet is a form of verse with these main characteristics. And I'm not going to go into everything, and I do realize that there are different definitions, etc. So this is just to get started. I don't want to get so academic that we spoil the enjoyment of the sonnets themselves. One stanza of 14 lines. In this video, I divided it into 2 slides, but it's 1 stanza. Usually written in iambic pentameter. Iambic foot is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable, so you have 2 syllables in a foot, and pentameter is 5 feet. So basically you have 10 syllables in a line, and you have the unstressed and stressed syllables. And structured into 3 quatrains and a final couplet. So a quatrain is 4 lines, so you have 12 lines with the 3 quatrains, and then the final couplet gives you your 14 lines. In Shakespearean sonnets, the rhyming scheme is often described as AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG. That's the couplet at the end, of course. And the final rhyming couplet often sums up or gives a surprising twist. All right, let's have a look at the Sonnet 1. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But, as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feed'st thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and, tender churl, makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. So a quick look back, and remember, these are just my comments on the sonnet, and I have not studied the sonnets. I've studied some of Shakespeare, but the sonnets, I didn't really do much with the sonnets when I was doing my Shakespeare work. However, the first 17 sonnets are sometimes called the procreation sonnets. I think you might have picked up some of that in this sonnet here. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. So, yes, the best looking creatures, maybe those with the best qualities in general, we want to increase. And according to Shakespeare's here, that the beauty rose will never die, but as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. So in other words, the beauty will continue on in your children, in your descendants, or your heirs. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feed'st thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. So if you're not procreating, if you're not having children, you're being cruel to your sweet self. I think he's referring back to your youth when you're the best looking, or the the best creature, according to Shakespeare. listen, I'm not agreeing with this in every line. I'm just saying what I think it's saying. Making a famine where abundance lies. So if you don't procreate, you're creating a famine where there could be lots of abundance or lots of children. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in niggarding. Sorry. Churl is like a miser, and niggarding, same idea, stingy. So sort of admonishing or saying, don't just be content within yourself or your own bud. The freshness of yourself is going to wear off and you will decease. And if you don't procreate, you're being very selfish. You're being very miserly. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. So, in other words, if you're not procreating or having children, and remember he's addressing a young man here, I think, then you are being a glutton. You are being selfish, and you're eating the world's due, meaning you're sort of stealing from the future, and by grave and thee, because eventually you will die, of course. All right, a few more comments in a moment. There you are, Shakespeare's Sonnet 1. There's a lot more can be said about it, but I don't want to dissect it to the point of making it tedious and challenging. That sometimes happens in schools with certain teachers, or maybe it's not their fault, maybe it's just the way the curriculum is set out, that you tear things to pieces and analyze it to death so there's no life left in it. So I would like you to, get your own feeling from it, get your own thoughts from it. I think there's some obvious ones that we really can't avoid, and I tried to touch on some of those, but there might be others there as well. Certainly lots can be drawn from poetry, sonnets, plays, books, novels, short stories, anything, any kind of literature, of course. Do I agree with Shakespeare? Well, perhaps at the time, the population of the earth would have been much less back then. I'm not sure what it was, but a lot less back in the 1600s. But with 8 billion people, I'm not sure that we all really necessarily need to procreate. I think it might be too much. But I understand the sentiment, and there certainly is that feeling even today in a lot of circles that you need to have a child. You have to have a child. It's sort of ingrained within us, and sort of a natural propensity, I think, to procreate. But I wouldn't necessarily give that advice to a specific individual today and say you must, or you're selfish, or you're greedy, or you're a miser. It's a pretty negative thing to say to someone who's decided, or for whatever reason can't procreate and have a child. I think it can be a choice, particularly, as I say, it's not as if we're shy on population at the moment. But it's again, it's an amazing sonnet. Shakespeare, of course, is famous and fantastic writer. So there's lots and lots that you can gain from reading his sonnets, his plays, and lots of characters within the plays you would not necessarily agree with, and maybe he didn't either. I don't know how he felt about everything he wrote. That's impossible to know. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth, or maybe it's a nickel and a half. I don't know. But you can let me know what you think of this sonnet. And any of your thoughts. Just let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do it below. Also, you can always email me. Also, check out the website if you're interested in lessons or just learning more about me or L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Always like to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps a lot on the YouTube channel to help build the algorithm, get it out there, get more and more people recognizing it. It's been growing very nicely. Thank you to everyone who has hit that subscribe button and contributed to the channel in some way. I really do appreciate it. In the meantime, keep learning, keep having fun. It's Ron from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Until next time, bye-bye for now.